Hi, I'm Elizabeth O'Brien from the Lead Group. We've returned to the place of sampling soil at a child's play soil area. This soil was originally much more covered with flakes of paint, and so we've advised that the flakes of paint, like this one for instance, just be picked up and with a shovel and put into plastic double bagged, put in the rubbish bin, and then to come back and cover the area of the play soil with mulch so that it is no longer play soil. In the future, we're recommending that this child be given a covered sand pit to play in instead of the soil altogether. So clean soil, clean sand in the sand pit will overcome the issue that this soil returned a result of 5 times the acceptable level of lead in soil. That's 1,500 milligrams per kilogram. We're going to go next to the paint area where there was a couple of cane chairs looking very old, and it's obviously very deceptive because as old as they look, they can't have been made prior to 1970 because the lead in the paint there is at a minimum level of 0.01. So it's an acceptable level. We'll now go back inside to the next paint sample. Before we go, the other pot sample that we took was a herb here, and the recommendation there is that the herb, when picked, be definitely washed so that any potential soil lead contamination is washed off. That's the usual problem with lead contaminated soil as used for growing vegetables or herbs. So we're in the hall here, and the paint that we sampled looked very old because it was very thick. In fact, it was deceptive, and this is why we say that the area being sampled is not necessarily representative of the whole area. If I had sampled up further than the rising damp, this may well produce very high levels in the paint, whereas down here it was all new paint clearly and therefore less than 0.01% lead. We'll now go outside to the exterior paint on the original building. Right, so we sampled right here, and the stunning result here is 36.6% lead. The Australian standard says that if paint is more than 1% lead, it is hazardous, so this is 36 times that. The paint continues up the wall to the child's bedroom, so we'll go now inside and see the result there on the windowsill. So we're in the 3-year-old's bedroom here, and this windowsill is potentially accessible to that child. So we've actually sampled a combination of the internal windowsill and the external windowsill and got this result of 1,650 micrograms per metre squared for a dust wipe. The paint that is visible is possibly not that old, whereas the yellow paint, but the blue and the white paint covering obviously paint that is up to 125 years old, which is the age of the house. So every time the window is opened and closed, you will get some friction where the paint comes off the surfaces there and falls as a dust onto this area. We highly recommend, with such a high dust wipe result there, that the whole window frame either be replaced or at least have the paint stripped off it. The safe method for stripping paint from wood is use of a low temperature heat gun, or especially an infrared gun, which is designed for lead paint removal, but it must be done at low temperature by a person wearing a respirator, no children present, no pregnant women present in the building, and that way is the only way to get this sort of problem cleaned up. We'll go now to the floor where we tested underneath the area of the vent here, and this floor clearly is a great cleanable surface. It's returned a result of 18 micrograms per metre squared, which is actually an acceptable level and would probably result in, if that was the only floor that was being accessed for play, would probably result in a blood lead level below 2 micrograms per decilitre. The other result that we got, however, is on carpet. Carpet is notoriously harder to clean And we took the result here near the front door, where of course you get some tracking of street dust as well, and it's basically impossible to vacuum all of the lead out of carpet. So when we wiped that little square of carpet, we found 75 micrograms per metre squared of lead. The research in the United States recommends that if you want to keep a child's blood lead level below 10 micrograms per decilitre, you need to keep all of your dust wipe lead levels below 120 micrograms per metre squared, and the aim would have to be reduced if you were wanting to get a lower blood lead level. So I would, but just by simple math, say that if you're looking to keep a blood lead level below 2 micrograms per decilitre, then you should certainly be trying to keep all of your dust white lead levels below 20. I know that's very stringent, but there's so much impact from a high blood lead level, it's really not worth testing it on your child. That's basically the only way to make a house of this age and this much lead in the paint safe is to completely strip the lead paint. The method for a wall like this would be to use a chemical stripper, a combination of chemical strippers, and to get back to a surface that has no lead in it. For an area like this, it's even better to use a chemical stripper because it's not flat. And again, for the woodwork, just like on a window, the best method is low temperature heat gun or infrared gun. Once a place is stripped and repainted with lead paint, then no future tenant or resident ever has to be concerned about lead in the paint, and nobody has to be cautious every time somebody comes to repaint. Whether they sand or not is much less relevant. Whereas here, someone coming in and sanding could immediately lead contaminate the entire building, especially for the young residents.